What is up, friends? Welcome back to the channel. I am Nicole with Sonar Sewing Patterns, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a follow-up to the video that I put out about a month ago that I called Crush Week. Crush Week is the week before a big vending event for me. I tend to go into like extreme work mode. I work really well under a hard deadline, and for whatever reason I haven't quite grasped the concept of slowly building up my stock over time so that when a big event comes, I'm already ready and I don't have to feel so stressed the week before. But yeah, so what I tend to do is I like wait until about a week or two before the event, and then I go into what I call crush mode. So I put out that video about a month ago, and it went through my days where I told you like how many pieces I made, what I did the whole day, and other like random musings. I will link to that down below if you want to watch that video. It was also interesting because I tracked the mileage that I walked in my studio. So like back and forth from this side of my table to that side of my table, and just within the confines of this room. It was quite astounding. I was pretty impressed at how many miles I walk in this one area. I did feel like I was working like 12-hour days, and when I was actually sitting down and timing it, I definitely was not doing that. So it was a really cool introspection into how I work and how all that goes the week before the event. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. So in that particular video, I was prepping for an event called the Big Crafty, and that's in Asheville, North Carolina. They do it 2 times a year, and I had received a ton of comments asking like how I did at the event, what sold the best, and other super random vending specific questions. So I put it out to my Patreon subscribers and asked them, what specific questions did you have in regards to vending and in regards to me in particular with vending, and what do you what questions do you have? And so I've compiled those questions here, and this video is just going to be a follow-up to Crush Week. So let's get started. So a little bit about the event that I did. Like I said a minute ago, it's the Big Crafty. It was started in 2008 by shop owners of Horse and Hero, which is a shop in downtown Asheville, North Carolina. Since its inception, they have done 41 events total with $17 million in artist sales, which is insane. That's amazing. 74% of the artists that they bring into the events are women, which I love. And until I read that stat on their website, I didn't realize it, but thinking back, I've done this event for many years now, and thinking back, it is very heavily women-centered and women-focused, which makes me love it even more. Okay, so now on to the questions. The first specific question that I got regarding the event was how many other vendors, and don't quote me on this, but I want to say that it's in the neighborhood of 140 vendors total, so 139. Next question is what sold, and I'm just going to assume like what sold the most, because when I bring stuff, I'm bringing a laundry list of different items in all of the different cork colorways. So I went through my trusty dusty book, which I talked about in Crush Week there toward the end of the video and in lots of other vending videos, but it's basically where I keep track of all of my sales, my stats, my booth fees, if I paid for hotels, my mileage for taxes. I keep track of everything. This also serves as a notebook where I can draw little purse designs, bag designs, wallets. Whenever I talk to other vendors, they tell me about other events. So this serves as my notebook for all purposes. But what I do is I have everything written down as to what I brought, the quantities that I brought, how much I sell it for, and then I have a reconciliation column here at the end. And then all of my totals are down here at the bottom. If you're a patron, this setup is free for you to use, and you can insert your own details as needed. I will link that. It'll be a download down below this video if you're on Patreon and you want to download and use my system. But this is the system that I have been using for the last little bit. I've been using barcodes that I print off of Square for retail. And what I've been doing, instead of trying to keep up with the tick marks and the tallies, when things get really busy in an event, it's hard for me to remember like, oh, I sold an eyeglass pouch or I sold a snap wallet, and do the proper tick marks. So what I've been doing is I'll just peel the barcode label off the back of my hang tag, and then I just put it in my book. And then at the end of the event, whenever I'm reconciling, I can go back in and I check off each thing onto its spreadsheet, and then I can reconcile everything that way. So all that to say, I went back through this entire book of all of the events that I have done with Big Crafty, and I pulled out all of those target details, and I'll go over all those at the end. Next question is, how many customers were at the Big Crafty? And I'm gonna be honest, I could not tell you. I have no idea. Generally, when I vend, I'm alone, so I'm stuck at my booth almost the whole time, and I have to call on my booth neighbors to watch my booth whenever I have to run to the bathroom or to get food or anything like that. So it's hard to tell. I'm not that organized where I have like a clicker and count all the people that come through, but I don't even know. I'm not good at like making estimates, but at least 2,000, 3,000. I mean, a lot of people come through those doors. The first day of each event, so the Saturday of every event is paid to get in, and then the Sunday is free. And so you see the heavy duty shoppers are paying to get in, and they're spending on Saturday. They want first dibs, first access. There's always a line at the door whenever we're opening on day one. And then day two, it just happens to be a lot of like random shoppers that just happen to be in Asheville, and they'll mosey into the auditorium and come shop around. Asheville is a busy city anyways, so we get a lot of like random passerbys, and that definitely equals some sales. But as far as a finite amount of how many people came through the doors, I don't know. I did try to look it up on their website, but I didn't see anything conclusive. All right, next question is, how do you interact or not interact with the customers? So this one came over years of practice, years of vending, years of kind of like sociology experiment, just watching how people are. And there are two groups of people. There are people that are very interested. They come right up and they basically introduce themselves and tell you their whole life story. And then there's a group that like have AirPods in and they don't really want to engage. They're just there to look, they're there to shop. And if they want to buy something, they'll quietly bring it up to you, pay, and that's it. They're not there for the conversation. So what I do is I have a director's chair, first and foremost. I used to sit in like a camping chair, but I couldn't see anybody. They couldn't see, I mean, I could see them because I'm like looking through my displays, but they couldn't see me. And so I got a director's chair, so that way I'm eye level with them, but I don't have to stand the whole time. I have a bad back, so standing full time is just not for me. It's not the ticket. That being said, my director's chair is not that comfortable, so it does make me get up and move around pretty regularly. But I kind of just gauge how people are whenever they walk into the booth. So the little pitch that I say to every single person that walks in is like, hey, how's it going? Or how are you? I let them answer, and I say, let me know if you have any questions, but I hand make everything out of cork. That's it. I say one sentence, and then if they want to talk back and they want to engage, then I engage. At which point I will stand up. I will get a little bit more, outgoing with them. But I take the lead from the client, from the customer who's in the booth. And I've also learned, because I do frequent these types of events as a customer, I don't want to talk to every single person. I just want to browse. I just want to look. I don't want everyone to, ask me 100 questions. Like if I know the backstory on maple syrup, like I don't need to know. I don't want to ask. I don't want to talk about all that stuff. Sometimes you just want to chill and window shop. You know what I mean? So I just take the lead from the customer who walks in. Now, I do have an old wallet that I made 10 years ago. It's one of the very first wallets that I ever made, and I know that because it has my old label on it from my old business before I was even Sonar. So when I see people are interacting with the products, they're picking it up, they're looking at it, they're looking at the construction, they're looking at the colors, they're talking to their person about it. When they've been in my booth for a couple minutes, I will then interact more, and I'll say, here's an example of how it holds up. That's always the first question that I get. And it is. Everyone always says, how durable is this? And they'll also smell it, oddly enough, because everyone thinks that or a lot of people think that it's leather. So that generally will get the ball started on a conversation if they want to conversate. If not, then people will just pick what they want. They'll come up to me, they'll pay, and then I'll never talk to them again. So I interact, but I follow the lead of the customer, I guess is the short answer. Last question, specifically about the event. Was it worth the crush craziness? Yes, it always is, and there's a couple of reasons. The first one being that's generally the only way that I work. So it can be a farmer's market or it can be a huge 3-day event. I'm generally not going to start like prepping until the week before. And that kind of goes back to what I said in the intro. I don't really know. I have to have a deadline. This like amorphous nebula of like, oh, I have an event in a couple weeks. I can't like frame that in my mind. There isn't anything in me. I have to have a deadline in order to work, I guess, is really what it is. So being an artist at home can be rather challenging for me because if I don't have something going on, I feel like I'm just floating in space, which sometimes is really nice because that's when I get to thinking about new patterns and pattern design, and I'll start tweaking an idea that I have, or it gets my creativity going when I have those lulls where I can sit back and relax and come up with new stuff. So yeah, it is worth the crush craziness. It's also like the only way that I know how to work. So worth it? Yes, because it has to be. Okie doke, we are moving into more general questions about vending. The first question is, how do I arrange my stuff and what is my setup? Now that has also changed over the years. Just even to like 3-4 years ago, I was on one table and I would bring like 75 items and I thought it was so full. And then it's just gotten bigger and bigger and more full and higher. That's been the big thing for me. I arrange my stuff in groups of items, and then I have a price tag in front of it. I like to have everything labeled all out in the open. I don't want people to pick something up and wonder what the price is. I want them to have all of the information immediately without having to engage with me if they don't want to. So I group everything on my table. I tend to do like all of my wallets and smaller stuff, they're on the actual table. If I have a bunch of stuff, I will put them in a box and I'll put 1 or 2 out as a display. And I do prefer the look of a nice full table, but not overwhelming. I like there to be clear areas of product. I don't want it to look like just a table covered in stuff. I don't want everything flat. There needs to be dimension, there needs to be height, there needs to be depth to my table in order for me to feel like it's merchandised well. So I started with getting just a couple of wooden crates from like Walmart, and I would put a couple mini box totes in those, and then I'd put a couple on top. And then I got a piece of wood, and then I got 2 more crates. So then I'll put the piece of wood and then I'll stack the crates on top. So now I've got 6 openings for bags, and then I have the whole rack for bags as well. So it just kind of keeps getting bigger and wider and longer. Here recently, what I've started doing is I have my main table, which is a 6-foot table, and I just use the folding card tables. And then I also have a 4-foot table that can go higher. And so the last 2 events, what I've done is I've had my 6-foot table straight, and then I had my 4-foot table this way and elevated, which was quite nice because it naturally became the like checkout center, and I was able to spread out some of the bigger bags, and then I had a lot of the smaller items like the eyeglass pouches, the slim wallets, the business card wallets, kind of those like when you're in the grocery store and you're at the checkout line and you see like the gum and stuff. That was kind of my thinking with that. Like if I do the really affordable items up here at the front where they're standing and waiting to check out, a lot of times they toss something else in the bag. So my stuff and my setup changes every single time. I do not have a formula for it. It all depends on the neighbors that I'm next to. If I need to be aware of certain things, if I'm on a corner, then that changes my whole setup as well. There are lots of different variables, but I feel like I've done every setup under the sun, and it's just constantly evolving and changing. But my biggest thing for people is have proper signage. Not only do I have my price tags out, I have my cork board. It says like all the attributes of cork. And then I have other boards that say each bag is unique and one of a kind. Be sure to peek inside, stuff like that. Things that I would vocally tell people, and 90% of the time still have to because people don't read anything. But I like to have everything available for the people to see and find on their own without having to engage with me. Next question is, how long does it take me to set up? I always give myself at least an hour. Going back to what I was talking about earlier, I'm 98% of the time I'm alone. So I need to pack my car up, get to the venue, unpack it, load everything in, go back and move my car, come back and set everything up. I have to have at least an hour, and sometimes that is pretty tight because my setup changes every single time. I can get overwhelmed with the actual setting up of the tables. That seems to be what kerfuffles me the most. Once I decide on my table layout, then I can kind of pop everything up pretty quickly. And I know that all the bags are going to go in my bins or my boxes, and they're going to be vertical. They're going to be up off the table. And I know that all the wallets and things are going to be on the table. So I will get my table set up. I'll pull out all my displays and I'll do a rough layout. And then I'm just like constantly moving and rearranging and rearranging and rearranging until about 5 minutes before the event opens. And then I'm like, okay, it is what it is. And I know that I'm done when I put my price tags out. So I guess the short answer is at least an hour, comfortably, hour and a half. I can get anything done in an hour and a half when it comes to the setup. All right, next question. How do you select which markets to do? This has also come with experience. I have done every single type of market under the sun. I've done everything from a church bazaar to a high school gymnasium to big event centers to downtown Main Street. You name it, I've done it. And in my experience with my price point, I do better at events where people are going with the intention of buying products. So the farmers markets, depends on the farmers market. I was shocked by the farmers market in Shelby, North Carolina. Shelby is not the place that you think of when you think of like sustainability and like crunchy granola people. And so I was like, I really don't know how cork items are going to go. I don't know if people are going to care. I don't know if people are going to be cool with the pricing that I have. And every single time I set up at the Foothills Farmers Market, I was so pleasantly surprised at the support that I received. So that being said, farmers markets are kind of like my target market. They're like people who care about where their food comes from and what they're putting into their body and what they're consuming. And, they're willing to spend a little bit more for quality. So I like that type of thing, but I do not generally do like free events. I did this one in North Carolina. It was like the city put it on, and this was not Shelby. This was a different city in North Carolina. And it was a free event for everybody that wanted to come, and they had live music and food vendors and circus rides and, you name it, they had it. I did terrible at that event because people were not going there to buy products. They were going there to have a beer and to listen to live music. So I don't tend to do free events of that nature. I don't do smaller events anymore just because I have been vending for so long that I need to make a certain amount of money to make it worth it in my head. And be that as it may, it might sound callous, but I've been vending like this for 8 years now. So I've kind of dialed in what I will and won't set up for. That being said, because I just moved to this city, so I'm back in Greenville now. I'm outside of Greenville, but for all intents and purposes, I'm back in Greenville, South Carolina, and I have not been established down here ever with Sonar. So I am kind of flexing my rules a little bit, and I'm doing events that I would not normally do because I'm trying to get my name out there. I am doing the Travelers Rest Farmers Market, usually once a month. I just did an event this week that was like, I think it was called Downtown Alive, and it was art after dark. And that would have been cool had we not gotten rained out immediately. As soon as I got set up, torrential downpour, and they called the whole thing off. So that was a bummer. But I am willing to do things that are outside of my normal events when I am establishing in a new place. All right, next question is, what is the best time of year to do markets? This feels subjective, if I'm being honest. I personally like to do them in spring and fall because that's when I like the weather. I don't like being outside during the summer. I have put myself in a precarious health situation vending in the summer because it was too hot. And if I left, then I forfeited my spot for this particular night market for the rest of the summer. And so I didn't leave. And so my husband had to drive up to Charlotte to come help me. And it was a whole thing. It was really scary and messy. And I didn't feel good physically after that because of the heat. And oddly enough, that event, I also found a snake in my vending box. I pulled it out of my car. So I'd driven from Shelby, North Carolina to Charlotte, North Carolina. There's a snake in my car the whole time. When I tell you I freaked out, oh my God. I threw my my cart. I have like a little cart that I put all my stuff in to schlep it around. And that's where the snake was. And thank God he wasn't a big snake. He was just a little snake. It reminded me of like Fievel Goes West, because I took the snake from a quiet, sleepy town and dropped him off in the middle of the road in Charlotte, North Carolina. But I don't do snakes. And snakes are not my thing. I don't know. I'm just one of those people. I don't like snakes. And so when I tell you that I called Brandon, who was an hour away, and I was like, what do I do? And he's like, I don't know, like figure it out. So that was funny. But anyways, so I don't like to vend in the summer. So the short answer is I like to do spring events and I like to do fall events. Now those time of years do happen to work out pretty well, because fall, people are gearing up for the holidays. They start shopping early. My stuff is very giftable, so it all kind of coincides. It works out well. I love a good outdoor fall show. That's when you'll see my little indoor kitty self back outside doing events. I don't like to be cold though either. So there is a fine line that I try to tread, but I do find myself in situations where I'm super hot and super cold throughout the year. Being outdoors, vending. Most of the time it's usually worth it. But springtime is great because people have cabin fever and they're ready to just like get out, and they need to feel the sun on their face, and they need to have some interaction with other people. And so I love springtime events as well, because people are just like excited and raring to go. It's the beginning of the year, you know, it's just such a good time of year. So I love spring and I love fall. All these summer events I feel like are crazy, which moves to the next question, which is indoor or outdoor events. Pertaining to what I just talked about, I prefer indoor events. However, on a nice spring day or fall day, I love being outside, because the fresh air is so nice and everybody's in just such a good mood and the weather's like perfect. And if you need to warm up, you just have like little hand warmers in your pocket. I love being outdoors when it's nice weather, nice time of year. Otherwise, I like being indoors. But again, that's very subjective. It depends on what you can deal with. It also depends on how the market is. Like Travelers Rest Farmers Market, people come to that rain, wind, snow. They don't care. They're going. They're getting their veggies for that week. So it depends on how good of a following the event has, if it's outdoors and the time of year. But as a general rule, I like to be indoors personally. Next question is, do you only accept cash? Absolutely not. No, I take money almost any way that people will give it to me. I have a Square card reader, and then I'm just now learning how to do tap to pay. And no offense to the boomers out there, but I always say like, oh, I'm kind of a boomer when it comes to tap to pay. It blows my mind when people come up and they like pay for stuff with their Apple Watch. Every time I'm like astounded. But I take all cards. I take cash. I don't like to take Venmo or I don't like to do like Venmo, Apple Pay, any of the digital currencies, only because my bookkeeping is already stressful with all the avenues that I accept payments online that I have to reconcile each month. So if I can avoid it, then I don't accept like Venmo and PayPal and all of that in person. Okay, next question. How do you know your target buyer? Again, this comes with experience, but if I'm being very honest, I need somebody who cares about the environment and who has a little bit of expendable income. That's my target market. So Colorado, fantastic market for that. Asheville, fantastic market for that. There are certain areas that I thought would be good because they're like more affluent. I would vend in this particular area in Charlotte, and I would always think, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Charlotte and like this very nice area. But the people weren't really interested in like the sustainability side of my stuff. So I have found my target market to be like crunchy hippies with money. If I'm being honest, that's what it is. There are a lot of people who are interested in cork, but they don't want to pay for it. They want like the Walmart $14 wallets, and that's totally fine. I get it. The economy is rough for everybody and has been for a very long time. And to that, they're just not my target market. So yeah, just throughout the years, I've seen my own trends, and because I have this book that has all of my stuff in it, I can look back and see where I do well, where I don't do well. And I do well in areas that people care about the environment and have a little bit of money. Okay, next question is, do I put out all of my stuff or do I refill and replace as I sell things? I put everything out on the table. Whatever I have out on the table is everything that I brought. It's so interesting. I'll have 200 items and somebody will say, I want this wallet in this color. And I'm like, of all the wallets on the table, you have to have that combo, which I understand. People are very particular about their wallets as well. but it never fails. I can have 6 different types of wallets and people are like, but do you make money clips? I'm like, of course, which I do. And then I send them to my website and they almost never actually follow up. But I just put everything out that I have, and it's kind of the way that I make stuff is very on a whim. Like I don't have any rhyme or reason for what I put RFID in, what I don't put RFID in, the colors that I cut certain things in. I'm not like very particular, like I'm not militant about having an olive bifold, an olive bifold ID, an olive slim bifold, an olive slim wallet. Like I don't do that. I just kind of cut at my whimsy and make what I have cut, and you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. And if it's not something that you want, or if you want something that I don't have on my table, then I just tell people go to my website and order it, and then I'll just make it and ship it to you. But I do not refill and replace because I don't have multiples of the same item generally. You know, I might have 8 bifold wallets, but they're all different colors. So if I ever got to a point where I was making like 5 black bifold wallets, 5 blue bifold wallets, I would keep 4 back, put 1 on the table, and then refill and replace as it's sold. But currently, the way that I make stuff, I don't have to refill or replace. Okay, next up is, do I put tags on each item or do I have signage? The answer to that is both. So I do have tags in front of all of my wallets, and inside all of my wallets, they all have a hang tag that has the barcode on it. And on the barcode, it says what the item is and how much it is. When I have bags, I don't have signage. I don't have like big signage for them because I have so many different types of bags, and having all the little placards in front of them seems excessive to me. So they just have the hang tag with the barcode that has the information of the name of the bag and the cost. Next question is, do I change up my table for additional days? Not hugely. As I sell stuff, I will just constantly be rearranging and moving stuff around. I can always tell how good I'm doing at an event if when I set up, I have 3 tables and I'm 2 layers high, and by the end I'm 1 table and it's flat. At this last event at the Big Crafty, there was another maker there, and she said, if at the end of the weekend, if that bag hasn't sold, I'm going to come back and get it. She said, I'm going to keep an eye on your table. And I could kind of see her. We were catty corner to each other. And I said, well, you'll know that I'm selling a lot of bags when you start to see me dropping shelves. And so that's how she kept an eye on how well I was doing over the weekend. So I change up my table, but I do it consistently throughout the whole weekend. But I'm not like rearranging every day to make it fresh and new. All right, next question is, what is my return policy or warranty? My return policy is kind of on a case-by-case basis. If it's unused and it's within a reasonable amount of time that they get in touch with me, I'll take it back. That's fine. I don't mind that. I do encourage trading out for a different product or whatever, so that way I don't have to send a refund, because then that goes back into my books and then I have to amend my books, and that's a pain in the butt. And then as far as a warranty, again, within reason. If the stitching goes out, I'll cover shipping and they'll send it to me and I'll fix it and send it back. If it's been like a year, I'll tell them to ship it to me. I'll fix it for free and then they cover shipping back. I don't have a set timeline on anything because, again, everything is situational. If somebody says, oh, my bag broke and it's been 8 months, and then they send me the bag and it's like completely decimated, then I know that that's a user being extremely hard on the bag. I don't really run into that a whole lot. I will say what I run into most is people will hit me up like 5 years later and say like, oh, this corner is peeling, can you fix it? And I'm like, well, I can't really repair the cork itself. Yeah, I don't know. The warranty thing is it's not something that I run into super often, but when I do get asked, I'm kind of baffled by some of the condition of some of the items. I had a gal, she sent me 2 clutches that she purchased 8-9 years ago and wanted me to repair them. And I was like, what? I'd have to the zipper broke. It was like a YKK zipper. That's another reason that I knew it was super old, because I haven't used YKK zippers in years. It was a number 3. And the pull popped off, and so she needed a whole new zipper, but that's like, I'd have to take the entire wristlet apart. And so I encouraged her to buy a new one, and I told her that I would give her a discount. And she was not interested in that. She wanted her originals back. So I didn't fix them, sent them back. Okay, next question is, do I give a multiples discount when I'm vending? No, I do not. I do occasionally get asked. People will say, if I buy this, can I get a discount on this? No. It's always awkward, but I 98% of the time say no. I price my items fairly. I price them down to the square inch, and I know that I am not like profiteering off of it. I'm out here trying to live off of my art, and I price my stuff fairly, and most of the time when I say that, people totally understand and they'll get both items or whatever. Sometimes people say, oh, okay, and then they don't get either, and that's fine. I've gotten very good at woo-sawing most situations when I'm vending, because you will see and hear so much random stuff when you're vending. People are strange, and a lot of them are very comfortable with saying whatever they want. Unfortunately for them, so am I. So I just say, nope. Okay, last question. Do I ever have end of season sales, or do I keep it for next season? I keep it for next season because my stuff is perennial, baby. I don't have a whole lot of stuff that's like, well, as a matter of fact, I don't have anything that's like spring, fall. I'm not organized enough for that. I would love to be. I would love to do a release for spring, and I will say my colors tend to shift in the springtime. I do like brighter colors, brighter combos. I'll bring in lighter pastels that I don't normally use. In the fall, I tend to go back to like my jewel tones, my earth tones. But pretty consistently throughout the year, I make all of those items. And kind of going back to what I said earlier, the stuff that I make is just like on a whim. It's just whatever I feel like cutting. It's whatever I happen to place next to each other, and I'm like, oh, why haven't I never thought of that color combo before? I don't have enough organization to have to do like seasonal things. But yeah, so short answer, I keep it all, and then I just roll it into the next event, which goes back to why I have a hard time mentally prepping prior to the event, because I'm like, oh, I have a bunch of stuff sitting in stock. Sometimes it feels like I've had the same stuff forever, and sometimes I do, because I'm only doing, you know, maybe 8 events a year. So if that, I would say 8 on the high end. So there's not a whole lot of like FaceTime for people to see the stuff in person. And I'm also not good at updating my website. So I tend to hold on to stuff until it sells. And I will say I have a 100% success rate in that. Eventually it will go. I have like areas where I keep my stuff, and I can keep it all like up and off the floor, and it doesn't take up space, so it doesn't really get in the way. But very rarely do I have a sale on any of my handcrafted stuff, unless it's something I'm like, get this out of my face, which doesn't really happen that often. All right, next question is pricing. I have gone over this pretty extensively, especially in my Patreon group. I use a spreadsheet that calculates down to the square inch the cost of my materials, and then it adds in my labor rate, and then I do try to get about a 35 to 55% markup on my cost of goods after all of that calculation has taken place. But I use a spreadsheet is the short answer. I added my labor rate, which I pay myself $27 an hour, and then I added my cost of goods sold, and then I do the calculation. Okay, we are to the question that I think most people want to know, which is like, how much money do you make when you vend? A lot of people are very cagey about this, and I can see why. It's so subjective. It all depends on your price point, how well you advertise, how long you've been around, how much competition you have in that particular event. There are so many variables that go into this. And I find that when I ask other vendors, like, oh, how's the weekend going for you? Has this been a good event? When they say yes, that could mean any number to them, because their good might not be my good. It's so subjective. And some people don't do art as their main job. They just do it because they enjoy doing it. And so anything is great. I do it because I have to make a living. And so I don't generally go into places with targets, with like financial targets, because anytime you have expectations, they always, I mean, for me, I've noticed if I go in to any situation in life with a certain expectation, chances are I'm going to get my heart broken. So, hi, Jeez, Kool-Aid Man Drizzy just busted in through the door. Okay, so let's get into the financials of it. Now, I have been doing this particular event, the Big Crafty, since July of 2019. When I first moved back from Colorado and I moved to Shelby, North Carolina, I would commute to Asheville. Back then, the July event was a 1-day outdoor event. The holiday event was a 2-day indoor event. So the price, the booth fees and things like that reflected those changes. Back in July, when it was an outdoor event, it was a lot more affordable, the booth fee. And then whenever it moved to indoors, it became more expensive because it became a 2-day event. And it was indoor. So July in the Carolinas is sweltering. And Big Crafty was the only event that I would do all year that was in the summertime, because it's always been so much fun and financially worth it for me. Also, at the end of the day, the promoters are they're so great. They're super chill. They don't micromanage you. They let you be an adult and they give you the information. You load in, you load out. It's very nice. The first night they have an artist meet and greet. I don't usually go to those because I'm alone and I don't like to do things alone. But it's a very welcoming atmosphere and everybody's just like super chill and cool. So, all right, July 2019, first time I ever did the event, I made $1,750-ish. I'm going to be rounding here. About $1,750. I brought 96 items. The BiFold wallet was hands down the biggest seller. Flash to their second event that year. So December 2019, the 2-day event, I made $2,400. I brought 112 items, so I brought a few more items than I did in July. And then Slim BiFold and BiFold ID, hands down, biggest sellers. Now, what you will see throughout all of the years is the Slim BiFold is always my biggest seller. I think it has to do... Drizzy, psst, psst. She's drinking my coffee. Please don't drink my coffee. It's not for kitties. And I wonder why she's like on one all night. It's because she's up here drinking my freaking coffee. The price point, I sell it for $28 and it's just like the good sweet spot. It's enough to be a good sale on my end and it doesn't hurt the customer's pocket that much, and it's a good product. It's a nice size. It can be a front pocket wallet. But you'll see the Slim BiFold is for a long time been my best seller. So for that December event 2019, it was $140 for that 2-day. So it's only a $40 difference and very, very affordable back in 2019. You'll see that price continues to raise throughout the years. So 2020, no events, obvious reasons, global pandemic. All right, July 2021 was our first time back after COVID. We were still outdoors at Pack Square Park at that point, so it was still a 1-day event. I made $2,100 at that event. I brought 161 items. Slim BiFold, business cards, paradigms, big sellers that event. $125 booth fee. Skip to their holiday event that same year, so December 2021, 2-day event indoors. I made $3,800 that year. I had a jump of $1,400 from the previous holiday event. That time I brought 154 items with a focus more on like bags and bigger items, and I sold a ton of Slim BiFolds and business cards that year. And the booth fee was still so low. It was only $145. So next year, July 2022, we were still outdoors. This was the last time that we would be outdoors at Pack Square Park in the summer. So for that 1-day event, it rained. But it was raining so hard that I didn't want to break down. So Brandon and I just got a beer. We chilled. We talked to the banjo players next door. We hung out, stopped raining. Tons of people came back out. We sealed the day very nicely. Made $1,800 that day. So a little less than I had made, or $300 less than I had made the year before in the July event, but we had a massive rainstorm that year, so I don't call that one a wash. I also remember that event. It was so much fun, and just all my neighbors were really great, and the weather, because it was a little bit rainy, it was like nice and cool. We were under a tree, and yeah, I remember that year very specifically. I'm not sure why, but that was a good one. Okay, so I brought 201 items. So I'm officially over the 200 mark on my items, and I've kind of stayed there since then. So since 2022, I've maintained about 200 items on my table. Slim BiFold, Paradigm Crossbody, biggest sellers, that one as well. So the trend so far, summertime, Paradigm Crossbodies and Slim BiFold. And the wintertime, it's smaller items like Slim BiFold business cards. In July 2022, $145 booth fee. So we maintained that booth fee. December 2022, I couldn't find any record of me doing the event. I have no emails. I don't know if I just didn't apply. I think maybe I was out of town. I don't really know. So no for that. July 2023, I was down in Savannah for a different show, and I only made $1,500 after hotel and booth fee and all that. Oh, also, side note, all of these totals that I'm giving you are it's the amount of take home that I brought home after paying the booth fee and after paying like applicable things. If I had to get a hotel or anything like that, this is the number after all that. Okay, so same thing, December 2023, I was waitlisted. I did apply, but they waitlisted me. And by the time they pulled me off the wait list, I had already accepted an offer to another event. So I did not do Big Crafty in December of 2023, but I did do the Foothills Farmers Market, the one that I was telling you about earlier. And I made $1,700 that day in 4 hours. That is a great day. Let's see. Okay, so we are to July 2024. So this time last year, it was a 2-day event. It was indoors, and I made $3,000. So that was a $900 jump from the last time I had done the outdoor event, which was fantastic. But again, 2 days, 2 full days. So I had to drive back and forth twice instead of just the once. Let's see, I brought 220 items at that show, and I had a lot of big sellers at this one. So it was Slim wallets, Snap wallets, business card holders, Slim BiFolds, and then BiFold with ID window. And then the booth fee was a big jump, and it jumped up to $250, and it has stayed pretty high since then. I will say I think it's worth it. So December 2024, so this last Christmas, 2-day event indoors, I made $4,400. I brought about 150 items, which is pretty low, I feel like, but a lot of bags. And so another big, like a varied high sales situation. So Snap Wallet, Slim BiFold, Wide Callistos, Paradigm Crossbodies, Mini Triskells. Pretty sure that was the first time I had debuted them, and I sold all of those. Mini box totes, and then BiFold wallets, and that was a $200 booth fee. And then last month, so the one that I did Crush Week for, it was an indoor 2-day event. I made $3,200. I brought 189 items. My biggest sellers were Bookmarks and Cord Keepers, BiFolds with IDs, Slim BiFolds, eyeglass cases, mini box totes, Wide Callistos, and Paradigm Crossbody bags. My booth fee was $250. So there you have it, folks. Quick little, well, I don't know if that was quick. Probably not. I feel like I've been sitting on the floor for a long time. My back is killing me. But let me know if you have any questions about anything. I like to have open communication about how much money vendors make at events, because I think it's kind of like talking about pay when you work in like an office. For some reason, it's this like taboo subject. And I think if we all shared it and talked about it more openly, then everybody could be more equitable in the process. And, you know, a rising tide raises all ships is one of my mottos. And so, yeah, if you're comfortable, drop down below with the most that you've ever made at an event and what event it was. Let's use this as like a forum for sharing good events with each other. I love chatting vending. I love vending. I love meeting all the vendors. I love all the access to all the art. I love doing all of my shopping at these events too. Sometimes it's dangerous. Sometimes I enjoy that I don't have a helper, because when I do, I will walk around and I will spend money. So actually, one of my favorite things that I got, it's blurry. I'll show you up there, but so at this last vending event I did on the last day, I kind of whenever I can, I walk around and kind of check everybody out, and I see what I would buy if I were shopping. And at the end of the event, what I do is I go around and introduce myself and I say, hey, do you like to barter? And a lot of times vendors do. And so that's how I get a lot of my stuff. I trade people, and I love that. I love that if the world was any more dystopian than it already is, and you had to like bring something to the table to be in the tribe, I would be the seamstress. And so that's a lot of fun, being able to like have my place in the world of, I don't know, whatever. Anyways, in a zombie apocalypse, I would be the seamstress. All that to say, I love to barter. I love to chat business. I love to vend. I love to chat vending. If you have any tips, tricks, questions, whatever, drop them down below. I appreciate you staying for the whole video. I feel like it's probably gotten pretty long-winded, so appreciate you being here. Appreciate your time. All right, I'll see you guys next week.